The warning lights flashed red across the command center of Station Alpha 9. Admiral Vexhai lifted his massive head from the reports he was reading. His forearms moved quickly across the control panel as he checked the readings again. Impossible, he muttered in his deep voice. The Catherian's blue skin darkened with confusion. For 300 years he had watched the borders of their galaxy. Nothing ever surprised him anymore. "Sir," called out Lieutenant Zara from her station. The young Zilani female's voice shook slightly. "The readings are correct. Something just appeared at grid 77 Alpha." Vexhai's red eyes narrowed. He stood up to his full height of 8 feet and walked over to the main display screen. The image showed empty space, but the sensors told a different story. Energy signatures that should not exist pulsed where nothing had been moments before. "Show me the visual," he ordered. The screen changed, and there it was. A ship unlike anything in their database floated in the darkness. It was long and sleek with strange markings on its white hull. The design made no sense. Where were the weapon ports that every civilized ship carried? Where were the slave quarters that marked proper galactic vessels? "Run identification protocols," Vexhai commanded. His voice carried the authority of someone who had crushed a dozen rebellions. "Already running, sir," Zara replied. Her fingers danced over her console. No match in any database. "The design is completely unknown." Other officers in the command center stopped their work to stare at the screen. In all their years of service, none had seen anything like this ship. It seemed to glow with its own light, and energy readings showed power levels that hurt to think about. "Open a communication channel," Vexhai decided. If this was some new enemy, he would crush them quickly. If they were potential slaves, he would add them to the Empire's collection. The screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at something that made everyone in the command center step backward. The creature on the screen looked almost like a Catherian, but smaller and weaker. It had only 2 arms and strange brown hair on its head. Most shocking of all, it seemed to be female, and she was clearly in command. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earthship Prometheus," the creature said in perfect galactic standard language. "We come in peace, seeking contact with the civilizations of this region." Vexhai found his voice after a moment of shock. No female commanded ships in civilized space. Such a thing was against all natural order. "I am Admiral Vexhai of the Catherian Empire," he announced. "You will identify your species and state your purpose in our territory." The female called Elena smiled, showing white teeth. "We are humans from the planet Earth. We have traveled 847 light-years to make peaceful contact with other intelligent species." Murmurs filled the command center. The coordinates she mentioned pointed to a dead zone, a region of space that their surveys had marked as uninhabitable. How could any species develop there? "That is impossible," Vexhai stated. "Our scans show no habitable worlds in that region." Elena's smile grew wider. "Perhaps your scans need updating, Admiral. We would like permission to dock at one of your stations. We have gifts and scientific data to share." Vexhai's mind raced. These humans seemed primitive, using only one ship for first contact. Any proper species would send a battle fleet to announce themselves. Their ignorance of galactic politics was obvious from their casual manner. "Very well," he decided. "You may dock at Station Nexus 7. You will surrender all weapons and submit to standard processing for new species." The human captain's expression changed slightly. "Processing? All new species must be evaluated for their proper place in the galactic order," Vexhai explained patiently. "Some are suitable for labor, others for military service, a few for technical work. Do not worry, humans. You will be given positions that match your abilities." Elena was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was very calm. "I see, and if we refuse this processing?" Vexhai laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Refuse? Why would anyone refuse the chance to serve the Empire? It is the greatest honor in the galaxy." "We will dock at your station," Elena said finally. "We look forward to meeting you in person." The communication ended and the command center erupted in discussion. Vexhai silenced them with a gesture. "Prepare a full diplomatic reception," he ordered, "and alert security. These humans seem unusually proud for such a primitive species. They may need to be taught humility." Lieutenant Zara pulled up the ship's technical readings on her screen. "Sir, there's something strange about their vessel." "What do you mean?" "The energy output is enormous, much higher than anything our ships produce, and the hull composition doesn't match any known materials." Vexhai waved dismissively. "Primitive species often waste energy through poor design. As for the materials, they probably strip-mined their homeworld to build this one ship." Typical short-sighted thinking. But as he watched the human ship begin moving toward Station Nexus 7, something bothered him. The vessel moved with a grace that suggested advanced technology. Its course was perfect, its speed precisely calculated. These were not the actions of primitives. 3 hours later, the Prometheus docked at Station Nexus 7. Vexhai had traveled there to personally oversee the first contact with this new species. He stood in the docking bay with a full honor guard of Catherian soldiers and representatives from the other member species of the Empire. The airlock opened with a soft hiss, and the humans stepped out. Vexhai had expected to see the weak, primitive creatures that their transmissions suggested. Instead, he found himself looking at beings that moved with quiet confidence. Their leader, Elena, was smaller than any Catherian, but something in her eyes made him uneasy. Behind her came 5 other humans. 2 were obviously soldiers, though they carried no visible weapons. They scanned the room with professional alertness that reminded Vexhai of his own elite guards. The others appeared to be scientists or diplomats, but all of them shared the same unsettling confidence. "Admiral Vexhai," Elena said, stepping forward with a slight bow, "thank you for welcoming us to your station." "Welcome to the Catherian Empire," Vexhai replied formally. "You are the first of your species to reach civilized space. This is a historic moment." Elena looked around the docking bay, taking in the sight of Zelani workers loading cargo under the watchful eyes of Catherian guards. Her expression remained neutral, but Vexhai noticed how her soldiers tensed slightly. "We are honored to make contact," she said. "We hope this is the beginning of a long friendship between our peoples." Vexhai gestured toward the station's interior. "Come, the council awaits. They are eager to determine how your species can best contribute to galactic civilization." As they walked through the station's corridors, Elena and her team observed everything. They saw the clear hierarchy that governed galactic society. Catherians commanded, other species obeyed. It was the natural order that had brought peace to the galaxy for over 1,000 years. "Your station is impressive," Elena commented as they passed a group of crystalline beings polishing the floors under guard supervision. "Order brings efficiency," Vexhai explained proudly. "Every species has found their proper role in our society. Soon humans will find theirs as well." One of Elena's soldiers, a man with hard eyes and scars on his hands, spoke quietly to his captain in their own language. Vexhai's translation device picked up only fragments, but the tone was clear enough. The humans were not pleased with what they were seeing. Let them be displeased, Vexhai thought. They would learn to accept their place soon enough. Every species did in time. The council chamber doors opened before them and the humans stepped inside to meet their fate. The council chamber was huge, with a curved ceiling that disappeared into shadows above. 7 massive chairs formed a circle in the center, each one designed for a different species. Admiral Vexhai took his place in the largest chair, while representatives from the other member races filled the others. Captain Elena Vasquez and her team stood in the center of the circle. She looked calm, but her security chief, Commander Marcus Chen, kept his eyes moving constantly. The other humans showed no fear, which surprised the council members. Most new species trembled during their first evaluation. "Humans of Earth," Vexhai began in his formal voice, "you stand before the Galactic Council, rulers of this sector of space. We will now determine your species' role in our great empire." Elena stepped forward slightly. "With respect, Admiral, we didn't come here to be evaluated for service. We came seeking diplomatic relations between equals." A sound like breaking glass came from the crystalline representative, which the humans' translators interpreted as laughter. The Zephyrian delegate's tentacles writhed with amusement. Even the normally quiet void dweller seemed to vibrate with humor. "Equals," Vexhai's voice carried disbelief. "You arrive in a single ship from an unknown world and you speak of equality? Child, your entire species could not build one deck of our smallest warship." Elena's expression remained polite. "Perhaps we could discuss an exchange of scientific knowledge. We've made some interesting discoveries during our journey here." "Science?" The Zephyrian's voice bubbled through its breathing apparatus. "What could primitives know that we have not mastered for millennia?" Before Elena could answer, alarms began echoing through the station. Vexhai touched a control on his chair, and a holographic display appeared showing the station's industrial section. "Ah, perfect timing," he said with satisfaction. "You can witness the efficiency of our system." The display showed Catherian guards surrounding a group of Zilani workers. The small, gray-skinned beings huddled together in fear as the guards read charges against them. These workers failed to meet their production quotas for the third time this cycle, announced the guard captain. The penalty is death to encourage the others to work harder. Elena went very still. Commander Chen's hand moved slightly toward where a weapon would normally hang. The other humans exchanged glances that spoke volumes. You're going to execute them for not working fast enough? Elena asked quietly. Of course, Vexhai replied. Inferior species must be motivated properly. Fear of death ensures maximum productivity. On the display, the guards raised their energy weapons. The Zilani workers began to cry, calling out names that must have been their families. Stop this, Elena said, her voice cutting through the chamber like a blade. Vexhai paused the execution with a gesture. Stop, these are workers, not people. They exist to serve their betters. They are intelligent beings with families and lives, Elena said, stepping closer to Vexhai's chair. You have no right to murder them. The Admiral's forearms spread wide in a gesture of amazement. Murder. This is justice, order, the natural way of things. He leaned forward, his red eyes gleaming. When your species joins our empire, you will learn to appreciate such efficiency. Elena's voice became very soft and very dangerous. Our species will never join an empire built on slavery and murder. You will, Vexhai said confidently. All species do once they understand the alternative. He nodded to the guards in the chamber. Perhaps a demonstration of what happens to those who refuse our generous offer. The Catherian guards moved toward the humans with casual arrogance. They were 3 times larger than any human, armed with energy weapons and protected by personal shields. They had broken the will of 100 species. They had never met humans before. Commander Chen moved so fast that most of the council members couldn't follow his motion. The first guard found his weapon flying across the room before he realized Chen had touched him. The second guard managed to activate his shield, but Chen grabbed the device and crushed it in his bare hands like paper. The third guard got his weapon halfway raised before Chen's fist connected with his helmet. The sound of cracking metal echoed through the chamber as the guard collapsed. The humans' diplomatic team had scattered to defensive positions with smooth efficiency. Dr. Sarah Kim pulled out a device that made the chamber's electronics start sparking. Lieutenant James Rodriguez somehow produced a weapon from nowhere and aimed it at the ceiling, where automated defense systems were trying to target them. Nobody move, Elena said in the sudden silence. Her voice carried absolute authority. We didn't come here to fight, but we won't be threatened either. Vexhai stared at Commander Chen, who stood calmly among 3 unconscious guards. Impossible. No species can match Catherian strength without technology. Humans evolved on a death world, Chen said simply. We got strong by surviving things that would kill most species before breakfast. Elena touched her communication device. Prometheus, this is the captain. We have a diplomatic incident. Prepare for emergency departure. Wait, Vexhai commanded. You cannot simply leave. The council has not dismissed you. Elena looked around the circle of alien faces. The council was about to murder 6 innocent beings for the crime of being tired. Then you tried to threaten us into slavery. She shook her head. We're done here. If you leave now, you declare war on the Empire. The Zephyrian representative bubbled angrily. We will hunt down your primitive world and burn it to ash. Elena smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. You're welcome to try, but I should warn you about something. What? Vexhai demanded. The Prometheus isn't an exploration ship, Elena said as her team began moving toward the door. It's a diplomatic vessel. We only bring those when we already know what we're going to find. Commander Chen was the last to leave. He looked back at the circle of shocked alien faces and spoke words that would be remembered across the galaxy for centuries to come. You have no idea what you just started, he said quietly. We are not your subjects and we will not bow to tyrants. Humanity has dealt with species like yours before. We know exactly how to handle bullies. The humans walked out of the chamber, their footsteps echoing in the silence they left behind. Vexhai recovered first. Guards, stop them! But the station's security forces found their weapons and systems mysteriously malfunctioning. Dr. Kim's device had done more damage than anyone realized. By the time they reached the docking bay, the Prometheus was already powering up its engines. Sir, Lieutenant Zara's voice came over the communication system. The ship's energy readings are spiking beyond our sensor's ability to measure. On the docking bay's main screen, Vex-High watched the human ship prepare to leave. It should have taken hours to safely disconnect and depart. The Prometheus did it in 6 minutes. As the ship pulled away from the station, a communication channel opened. Elena's face appeared on the screen one last time. "Admiral Vex-High," she said formally. "When you attack our world, remember this moment. Remember that we offered you friendship and you chose to threaten us instead." Her image smiled coldly. "Humanity does not forgive, and we never forget." The transmission ended, and the Prometheus vanished into hyperspace with a flash of light that temporarily blinded the station's sensors. In the council chamber, the 7 representatives sat in stunned silence. Finally, the Void Dweller spoke in its whispered voice. "What have we done?" Vex-High's 4 fists clenched with rage. "We have encountered a species that does not know its place. We will teach them." He activated the general communication system. "Prepare the Second Fleet. We will visit this Earth and show these humans what happens to those who defy the Empire." But even as he gave the orders, something cold was growing in his chest. The ease with which the humans had disabled his guards, the casual way they had neutralized the station's defenses, the impossible energy readings from their ship. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Vex-High wondered if the Empire had finally met something it could not conquer. On the display screen showing the station's industrial section, the Zilani workers still waited for their execution, forgotten in the chaos of first contact gone wrong. Admiral Vex-High stood on the bridge of the Imperial Dreadnought Conquest, watching the stars stream past as his fleet jumped through hyperspace. 12 of the Empire's finest warships followed his flagship, each one capable of destroying entire planets. The Second Fleet had crushed rebellions across 3 sectors. These humans would learn respect quickly. "Approaching the coordinates now, sir," reported Navigator Thane. The young Catherian's voice carried excitement. This would be his first planetary conquest. "Excellent. Bring us out of hyperspace and begin scanning for the human homeworld." Vex-High settled into his command chair, already planning the victory celebration. "Prepare to broadcast surrender demands." The fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Vex-High expected to see a single primitive world with perhaps a few orbital platforms. What appeared on his screens made him question his own eyes. "Sir," Thane whispered, "the entire system is inhabited." Instead of one world, sensors showed dozens of planets covered with cities. Massive space habitats floated between them like artificial moons. Industrial platforms stretched across asteroid belts, processing raw materials on a scale that dwarfed anything in Empire space. "Impossible," Vex-High muttered. "Our scouts surveyed this region. There was nothing here." "Sir," called out sensor operator Crix. "Energy signatures approaching from multiple vectors." The main display changed to show the tactical situation, and Vex-High felt his blood turn cold. Ships were emerging from behind planets, from asteroid fields, from what looked like empty space. Hundreds of them. The human fleet was enormous. "How many?" he demanded. Crix's voice shook as she read the numbers. 237 vessels detected so far, sir. They're still appearing. Each human ship was larger than anything in Vex-High's fleet. They moved with precision that spoke of advanced technology and careful planning. Worst of all, they showed no fear at finding themselves outnumbered. "This is impossible," Vex-High said again. "No single species commands fleets this size." A communication request appeared on his screen. Against his better judgment, he accepted it. The human who appeared was older than Captain Vasquez, with gray hair and stars on her uniform that marked her as a high-ranking officer. She looked directly at Vex-High with calm, intelligent eyes. "I am Rear Admiral Sarah Mitchell of the Earth Defense Force," she said in perfect galactic standard. "You have entered human space without permission and with obvious hostile intent. State your business here." Vex-High found his voice. "I am Admiral Vex-High of the Catherian Empire. Your species has committed crimes against the galactic order. We are here to bring you to justice." Admiral Mitchell's expression didn't change. "What crimes?" "Assault on Imperial personnel, threatening Council representatives, refusing to accept your proper place in galactic civilization." Vex-High leaned forward. "Surrender now and your deaths will be quick." The human admiral was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was very soft. "Admiral, do you know anything about human history? Why would I study the history of primitives?" "Because," Mitchell said, We are a species that survived ice ages that killed most life on our planet. We survived plagues that wiped out half our population. We survived world wars fought with weapons that could have destroyed our entire civilization. Vexhai waved dismissively. Ancient history. You face the Empire now. We turned our deadliest weapons into tools for exploration, Mitchell continued as if he hadn't spoken. We took the same technology we used to build planet-killing bombs and used it to reach the stars. We have been preparing for this moment for 3 centuries. Preparing for what moment? Mitchell's smile was cold as space itself. The moment we met a galactic empire built on slavery and murder. You want a war, Admiral? You just declared one against a species that has been getting ready to fight tyrants since before your empire existed. The communication ended, and warning alarms immediately began screaming across Vexhai's bridge. Sir, the human fleet is moving to attack formation, Crix reported. They're surrounding us. Impossible. We have 12 dreadnoughts. No force in the galaxy can threaten the second fleet. But even as Vexhai spoke, he could see the human ships moving with impossible speed and coordination. All ships prepare for battle, he commanded. Target their largest vessels. Show these primitives the power of the Empire. The Conquest's massive guns swiveled toward the nearest human ship, a sleek vessel that looked nothing like proper military design. Energy readings spiked as the dreadnought's main weapons charged. Firing, announced Weapons Officer Dells. The Empire's most powerful weapons struck the human ship with enough force to crack a moon. The energy beams hit the target dead center in a display of light that could be seen from several star systems away. When the light faded, the human ship was completely undamaged. What? Vexhai stared at his displays. That's impossible. Nothing can withstand direct fire from Imperial dreadnought cannons. Sir, Crix said in a voice full of terror, the humans are returning fire. What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations, assuming any Imperial academies survived what was coming. The human weapons didn't look like much. No massive energy beams, no obvious projectiles, just small, fast objects that seemed to appear from nowhere and move with their own intelligence. The first missile hit the Imperial ship Guardian amidships. The explosion was so bright that every screen on every ship automatically dimmed to protect their crew's eyes. When the light faded, the Guardian was gone. Not damaged, not crippled, completely vaporized. Shields up. Evasive maneuvers, Vexhai screamed. But the human weapons followed their targets no matter how they twisted and turned. The missiles seemed to think for themselves, predicting moves and adjusting course faster than any computer should be able to calculate. The Imperial ship Thunder lasted 18 seconds. The Retribution managed 23 seconds before a human torpedo found a weak spot in its armor and turned the mighty dreadnought into expanding gas and metal. Sir, we're losing ships faster than we can count them. Navigator Thane's voice cracked with panic. Vexhai watched his proud fleet being destroyed with casual efficiency. The humans weren't even using their full force. Most of their ships hung back, watching as if this was some kind of training exercise. All ships retreat, he ordered. Emergency jump to hyperspace. Sir, the humans are jamming our navigation systems, Crix reported. We can't calculate a safe jump. On the tactical display, more Imperial ships died. The humans attacked with weapons that ignored shields, armor that self-repaired faster than it could be damaged, and tactical coordination that made the Empire's best military minds look like children playing with toys. Admiral Mitchell's voice came over the communication system again. This is your last chance, Admiral. Surrender now, and we'll allow your surviving crews to return to Imperial space with a message. Vexhai looked at his display. Of his 12 mighty dreadnoughts, only 4 remained. The humans had destroyed the second fleet in less than 30 minutes. What message? He asked weakly. Tell your council that Earth is under the protection of the human coalition. Tell them that any attack on coalition worlds or citizens will be met with appropriate response. And tell them, Mitchell paused, tell them that we know where all their worlds are, and we're coming to free every slave in their empire. The transmission ended. A moment later, the jamming field around Vexhai's remaining ships disappeared. Navigator, Vexhai said in a voice that sounded like an old man's. Calculate jump coordinates for home. Emergency speed. Yes, sir, Thane replied. What do I tell the council about our mission status? Vexhai stared at the tactical display, where human ships continued their patrol of the system as if nothing had happened. as if destroying the Empire's second fleet had been routine maintenance. "Tell them," he said slowly, "that we have awakened something terrible. Tell them that these humans are not primitives from a dead world. They are a force that has been planning this war for centuries." The 4 surviving Imperial ships jumped to hyperspace, carrying news that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. Behind them, the human fleet returned to its patrol routes, protecting a civilization that spanned hundreds of worlds and countless billions of free citizens. Admiral Mitchell stood on her bridge, looking out at the stars where the Imperial fleet had been destroyed. "Ma'am," her tactical officer said quietly, "should we pursue the survivors?" "No," Mitchell replied. "Let them carry word back to their masters. It's time the galaxy learned that humanity is no longer hiding." She touched a control on her chair, opening communication channels to every human world in the coalition. "This is Admiral Mitchell," she announced. "Operation Liberation is now active. All fleets to combat readiness. The war for galactic freedom has begun." The news spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. The mighty Second Fleet, pride of the Catherian Empire, had been destroyed by unknown aliens calling themselves humans. On 1,000 worlds, slaves whispered the story in hidden corners. On Imperial worlds, citizens demanded answers from leaders, who had none to give. Supreme Commander Thax stood before the full Galactic Council in their great chamber on Catheria Prime. The massive alien's 6 arms gestured angrily as he addressed the representatives of 7 species. "How is this possible?" demanded Councillor Vorth, his crystalline body ringing with agitation. "The Second Fleet was invincible." "Apparently not," Thax replied grimly. He activated a holographic display showing the battle's aftermath. "Admiral Vexhi's report is disturbing. The humans possess technology far beyond anything we have encountered." The Zephyrian representative's tentacles writhed with nervous energy. "One battle means nothing. They surprised us, that is all. The Empire controls 10,000 systems. What can one primitive species do against such power?" Even as she spoke, reports were flooding in from across Imperial space. Human fleets had appeared at slave worlds throughout the outer territories. But they weren't conquering, they were liberating. "Sir," an aide rushed into the chamber. "Priority message from Sector 7. The humans have attacked the labor colonies at Xerion Prime." Thax's expression darkened. "Losses?" "None, sir. They didn't attack our forces. They landed troops and freed all the slaves. 20 million Zalani workers were loaded onto human transport ships and evacuated before our reinforcements could arrive." Silence filled the chamber. 20 million slaves represented decades of conquest and enormous economic value. The humans had simply taken them away. "What did our garrison do?" Councillor Vorth demanded. The aide looked uncomfortable. "They tried to stop the evacuation, sir. The humans asked them to surrender. When they refused..." He paused. "The entire garrison was eliminated in 14 minutes. More reports arrived throughout the day. Human forces had struck 15 slave worlds simultaneously, freeing billions of workers and removing them from Imperial control. Every attack followed the same pattern, swift, precise, and completely overwhelming. How many fleets do they have?" The Void Dweller representative whispered. Nobody had an answer. Human ships seemed to appear from nowhere, strike with impossible efficiency, and vanish before Imperial reinforcements could respond. Their technology made the Empire's finest weapons look primitive. Thax studied the tactical displays showing human attacks across dozens of systems. "We are facing a full-scale invasion. All member species will contribute to our response." "What response?" asked the Zephyrian. "Our fleets cannot match their technology." "Then we use numbers," Thax declared. "The Empire controls thousands of worlds and trillions of citizens. We will mobilize everything, every ship, every weapon, every soldier. The humans may be advanced, but they are still just one species." Orders went out across the galaxy. The Great Fleet began assembling at Catheria Prime, 10,000 warships representing the combined military might of the Empire. Pressed into service came the bioships of Zephyria, living vessels that could heal themselves in battle. The crystalline dreadnoughts joined them, ships grown rather than built, harder than any known material. Even the mysterious Void Dwellers contributed their shadow fleets, vessels that could phase in and out of normal space. Meanwhile, enslaved species found themselves forced into military service. Zalani technicians were chained to their stations. Aquatic Mir were sealed into combat suits and told to fight or watch their families die. Every conquered race contributed soldiers to the Empire's war machine. This is the largest military force ever assembled, Thax announced to the Council, as the Great Fleet reached full strength. No power in the galaxy can stand against us. But even as he spoke, intelligence reports brought disturbing news. The humans hadn't been sitting idle during the Empire's mobilization. Captain Elena Vasquez, now promoted to Admiral, stood on the bridge of the UES Liberation, watching long-range sensors track the approaching Imperial fleet. Around her, the human command staff worked with calm efficiency. Size estimate, she asked her tactical officer. Just over 10,000 ships, ma'am. Every major Imperial class represented, plus forced conscripts from their subject species. Elena nodded. And our readiness status? All coalition fleets report ready for engagement. The Liberation Front has confirmed their rebellion timing. Resistance cells are standing by across Imperial space. Elena smiled grimly. The Empire thought they were facing just humanity, but they had missed something crucial. Every world the humans had liberated had been given a choice. Join the coalition as free citizens or remain independent under human protection. Most had chosen freedom. The former slaves of the Empire had become humanity's allies, contributing their own knowledge and resources to the war effort. Zalani technical expertise had improved human weapons. Mere naval tactics had refined human strategy. The crystalline refugees had shared secrets of materials science that made human armor nearly indestructible. Ma'am, her communications officer reported. Priority message from Earth Command. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the main screen. The scarred veteran who had humiliated Imperial guards during first contact now commanded humanity's largest battle fleet. Elena, the Council has made their decision, he reported. Operation Liberation is approved for full implementation. All targets? Every Imperial stronghold, every slave world, every military installation. The gloves are coming off. Chen's expression was hard as steel. The Empire wants to fight with their full strength? Let's show them what ours looks like. Elena nodded. Understood. All fleets begin Phase 2 operations. Across the galaxy, the true scope of human preparation revealed itself. They hadn't been hiding in one system. They had been building a vast interstellar nation in the dark spaces between Imperial territories. 400 systems answered humanity's call to arms, each one contributing ships and soldiers to the coalition cause. The humans had spent 3 centuries preparing for this war. They had studied every Imperial weakness, infiltrated every major facility, and built relationships with resistance movements on 1,000 worlds. When the Empire mobilized their great fleet, they left their territory nearly defenseless. Human strike forces hit Imperial worlds with surgical precision. They didn't destroy cities or kill civilians. They targeted military bases, government centers, and anything connected to the slave trade. On world after world, the local population rose up to support their liberators. Supreme Commander Thax received the reports with growing horror. His great fleet was still 3 days from human space, but the Empire was already crumbling behind him. Sir, his aide reported with a trembling voice. We've lost contact with 57 Imperial worlds in the last 6 hours. Lost contact? Thax demanded. The humans have destroyed our communication networks and military infrastructure. Local governments have either fled or surrendered to coalition forces. Thax stared at the tactical display showing the dissolution of his empire. Red markers indicated lost worlds, yellow showed systems under attack, and green marked the few locations still under Imperial control. The map was mostly red and yellow. How is this possible? He whispered. His aide pulled up intelligence reports that had been ignored during the fleet buildup. Sir, it appears the humans have been planning this operation for decades. They have detailed knowledge of our military positions, our trade routes, our communication systems. They know everything about us, and we know nothing about them, Thax realized with growing dread. The final terrible truth was becoming clear. The Prometheus hadn't stumbled across Imperial space by accident. That first contact hadn't been a diplomatic mission. It had been a final intelligence-gathering operation before the war began. Humanity had been watching the Empire for generations, learning their weaknesses and preparing for the moment when they would tear down the galactic order and build something better in its place. Sir, the aide said quietly, long-range sensors show human fleets moving to intercept us. Multiple vectors, unknown number of ships. Thax looked at his great fleet. 10,000 ships representing the Empire's full military might. For the first time in his career, he wondered if it would be enough. All ships battle stations, he ordered. We are about to discover what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. But even as he gave the command, Thax suspected he already knew the answer. The Empire had ruled through fear and overwhelming force for 1,000 years. They had never faced an enemy that was stronger. The Battle of Cytheria Prime lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the once mighty galactic empire lay in ruins, and the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Elena Vasquez stood in the same council chamber where her diplomatic mission had failed months earlier. But now she wore the uniform of the Coalition Liberation Force, and the 7 chairs of the old council sat empty except for one. Former Supreme Commander Thax knelt in chains before her, his 6 arms bound behind his back. The massive Cytherian who had once commanded fleets across the galaxy now looked small and broken. His great fleet of 10,000 ships had lasted exactly 6 hours against the combined might of the human coalition. You fought well, Elena said quietly, looking down at the defeated commander. Your soldiers showed courage even when facing impossible odds. Thax raised his head, confusion in his red eyes.
Why do you mock me?
You have won. Kill me and be done with it. Elena shook her head. We don't kill prisoners, Commander. That's what made you different from us. She gestured to her aide, who stepped forward with a datapad. You're being charged with crimes against sentient beings, but you'll receive a fair trial with legal representation. I don't understand, Thax muttered. We are your enemies. In war, enemies die. In your kind of war, yes, Elena replied. But humanity fights for something different. We fight to free people, not to destroy them. She turned away from the prisoner and walked to the great windows that looked out over Cytheria Prime. The planet's capital city stretched to the horizon, but it looked different now. The massive slave quarters had been converted to refugee centers. The weapon factories were being retooled to produce medical supplies and farming equipment. Most importantly, the execution platforms where the Empire had murdered countless innocents were being torn down by former slaves working alongside human engineers. A status report, she requested from her communications officer. Ma'am, resistance has ended on all Imperial core worlds. The last holdout forces surrendered 2 hours ago when we showed them footage of the capital's liberation. Elena nodded. It had taken 3 months of fighting, but the Empire was finished. Not destroyed, liberated. Every world that had been under Imperial control was now free to choose its own government and join the coalition if it wished. What about the refugee situation? Massive but manageable. We've evacuated over 50 billion beings from slave worlds. Temporary housing is being established on uninhabited planets throughout former Imperial space. The Zilani have volunteered to coordinate most of the relief efforts. Elena smiled at that. The gray-skinned beings who had been the Empire's most numerous slaves had become some of the Coalition's most dedicated supporters. They understood better than anyone what freedom meant. And the military situation? All Imperial fleets have either surrendered or been destroyed. We've secured every major weapons facility and shipyard. Several former Imperial species have requested membership in the Coalition Defense Force. A soft chime indicated an incoming priority message. Elena accepted it, and the face of Admiral Sarah Mitchell appeared on the chamber's main screen. The older woman looked tired but satisfied. Elena, congratulations on a job well done. I'm calling from Earth with news from the Coalition Assembly. Good news, I hope. The best. The Assembly has officially voted to establish the Galactic Democratic Union. Every species will have equal representation, regardless of their size or military power. And Elena? Mitchell smiled proudly. They've asked you to serve as the first Secretary General. Elena felt a moment of surprise, then acceptance. Someone had to guide the transition from empire to democracy, and she had earned the trust of both humans and aliens during the liberation campaign. I accept, she said simply. What about our exploration plans? Already approved. The UES Horizon launches next month for the Andromeda Galaxy. If there are more empires out there oppressing innocent species, we'll be ready for them. The transmission ended, and Elena returned her attention to the former Imperial commander. Thax was staring at her with something like wonder in his alien features. You're giving up military control to become a politician? He asked. I'm accepting responsibility to help build something better, Elena corrected. The age of empires is over, Commander. The age of cooperation has begun. She walked over to one of the great windows and activated its communication system. Her image appeared on screens across Cytheria Prime and was broadcast to every world in what had once been Imperial space. Citizens of the galaxy, she began. 3 months ago, the Cytherian Empire fell not to conquest but to liberation. Today I speak to you as the first Secretary General of the Galactic Democratic Union. On 1,000 worlds, billions of beings stopped what they were doing to listen. Former slaves, former Imperial citizens, human colonists, and refugees all watched the woman who had led their liberation. The old system of empire and slavery is dead, Elena continued. In its place, we offer something new. A union of free species working together for the benefit of all. Every world will govern itself. Every being will have rights that cannot be taken away, and every species will have a voice in our shared future. She paused, looking out at the city where former slaves worked alongside former masters to build a better world. This will not be easy. Democracy is harder than empire. Freedom requires more responsibility than slavery. But humanity has learned something. During our long history, the most difficult path is often the most worthwhile. The broadcast continued for 30 minutes as Elena outlined the new government structure. The assembly would meet on neutral ground, with representatives from every member species. Laws would be passed by majority vote, with protections for minority rights. A coalition defense force would protect member worlds from external threats, but no military would ever again be used to oppress civilians. When the speech ended, Elena found herself alone with Thax again. The former commander was studying her with new interest. Why? He asked simply. Why what? Why do all this? Your species could have simply conquered us and taken our place as galactic rulers. Why give power to others? Elena considered the question seriously. Because, she said finally, humanity learned long ago that true strength comes from cooperation, not domination. An empire built on fear and slavery is actually very weak. It can be toppled by anyone stronger or more determined. She gestured to the window, where Zelani and Cytherian children were playing together in what had once been a military parade ground. But a union built on mutual respect and shared benefits, that's something worth defending. That lasts. Thax was quiet for a long moment. What will happen to my people? The same thing that happens to everyone else, Elena replied. They'll be free to choose their own government, join the union if they wish, and rebuild their society without the burden of maintaining an empire. And if we choose not to join? Then you'll remain independent with the same protections and trade rights as any other neutral world. The coalition doesn't force membership on anyone. Thax shook his great head in amazement. In all my years of military service, I never encountered an enemy like humanity. We weren't your enemy, Elena corrected gently. We were the enemy of what your empire represented. There's a difference. 6 months later, Elena stood on the observation deck of the UES Horizon as it prepared to depart Earth's solar system. The massive exploration vessel was 10 times larger than the Prometheus, equipped with the most advanced technology the Coalition could provide. Its mission: to seek out new civilizations beyond the galaxy and offer them the same choice the Empire had once denied: freedom or tyranny. Behind them, the Milky Way galaxy was transforming rapidly. The Galactic Democratic Union now included 47 species, with more requesting membership every month. Trade flowed freely between worlds that had once been enemies. Scientific knowledge was shared openly, leading to breakthroughs that benefited everyone. The former Imperial species had adapted to freedom with varying degrees of success. The Cytherians struggled with concepts of equality and democracy, but their younger generation was embracing the changes. The Zephyrians had become enthusiastic Union supporters, contributing their biological technology to medical research. Even the mysterious Void Dwellers had emerged from their isolation to share their unique perspectives on space and time. Ma'am, her aide reported, the crew is ready for departure. Elena nodded. Take us out, Captain. Let's see what's waiting in the dark between galaxies. As the Horizon entered hyperspace, Elena reflected on the journey that had brought them here. It had started with humanity's decision to remain hidden while they studied the galaxy around them. It had continued with their careful preparation for the day they would have to fight for freedom. But it had ended with something no one had expected. Not victory, but transformation. The galaxy was no longer a place where the strong oppressed the weak. It had become a community where all species could work together toward a better future. And if there were other empires out there, other tyrannies oppressing innocent beings, they would soon learn what humanity and their allies had, proven in the Milky Way. Freedom was not just an ideal worth fighting, for it was a force powerful enough to reshape the universe itself. The age of empires was over. The age of liberation had begun,